Hey, Naomi, how am I going to handle the...
Debbie?
Okay, I'll make them.
Dara, should we start?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay, so I just got to share my screen. Yossi, I may need your help with this. Oh, no, wait, just a sec. Here.
Want to introduce anybody?
Who wants to introduce yourselves?
Okay, I'm going to start. I'll start in a second. Yossi, you there? Is Yossi there?
Yeah. Yes. Everyone mute themselves.
Okay. Yossi, well, how do I get rid of all, how do I just make it the slideshow?
I have to see your screen. Normally it's on.
You see it? You see my screen?
Oh no, it's
that's the same problem.
It's black. It says it's starting, but it's taking a while.
Cool. No, it won't work.
Karen, it's not
working. We had that problem already. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, go to.
Can you just double click it?
From beginning here.
Right on the file.
From beginning, yeah. Click on it.
Yeah.
Double click.
Double click on it. I guess it's Windows. Yeah. You go back.
Wait, one sec. Okay, wait. 1 second.
Do escape.
It's not yeah, it's Windows. Double click. 1 sec.
No, do escape. Escape.
No, she's behind. She's ahead of you or behind you.
Do escape.
Doesn't work. You see the map?
Yes.
You see this?
Yes.
Okay, so fine. It's not perfect, but okay. It's only 4 slides.
No, go from beginning, click on that.
She only has a few slides.
Okay, but you can't see it like this. Okay.
Okay, then how do I change them? How do I progress it?
Just click on it.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm starting. Okay.
Tell
What?
Introduce us.
I will.
Okay.
I will. והתהלך בארץ אל אורכה אל רוחבה כי לך אתננה. This is from Bereshit Parshat Lech Lecha, Perek Yud Gimel, Pasuk Yud Zayin. Arise, walk about the land through its length and breadth, for to you I give it. This pasuk is both a promise and a command to the Jewish people, a promise of God's protection while Abraham roamed freely through the land, and a command to walk the land to symbolize the Jewish people's claim over it. A group of people from the Ohel Ari community did just that. Starting in November 2013, several members of our community started out on a segment of Shvil Yisrael, and unbeknownst to us at the time, the Ra'anana Hikers Group was born. With that first hike, we began a journey which would take us from the northernmost point in Israel, Kibbutz Dan, on our border with Lebanon, to Eilat, Israel's southernmost point, a total of 1,000 kilometers or 683 miles. It took us 54 days in total, and we did it over 4 years, from 2013 to 2017. My name, most of you know it, but my name is Karen Itzkowitz, for those who don't, and I'm going to speak briefly about some fun facts regarding Shvil Yisrael. Next, Debbie Weiss will narrate her slideshow of the many, many gorgeous shots taken while we were hiking to give you a sense of the majesty of hiking the Shvil. Next up is Pam Braverman, who will share a personal story of an experience she had on the Shvil, which exemplifies the many ways we grew and challenged ourselves while we hiked our magnificent country. And Naomi Pugach will be our final speaker, who will present her PowerPoint presentation on the many benefits of hiking and how easy it is to get out on one of the thousands of kilometers of trails in Israel, many very close to Ra'anana and the Merkaz, and enter into a sublime world for several hours and totally recharge. Shvil Yisrael goes by many names. Shvil Yisrael, or simply the Shvil, or the Israel National Trail, or INT for short, as it's referred to in English. It's the brainchild of Avraham Tamir, a journalist and hiker who hiked the Appalachian Trail in the 1970s and came up with the inspiration for the Israel Trail. When he returned to Israel, he approached the Israel Trails Committee, which is part of the Society for the Protection of Nature, SPNI for short, or Chevra Lahagana Hateva. And he so he approached the Israel Trails Committee. Ori Dvir, also a hiker, educator, and one of the founders of SPNI, fell in love with the idea, and a long process of establishing the Shvil began. After much investigation, bureaucracy, research, and hard work, and 15 years later, the Israel Trails Committee inaugurated Shvil Yisrael with Ezer Weitzman conducting the ceremony on Pesach in 1995. Every major trail, Every major trail has a marker or blaze, which is specific to that trail. The blaze is marked throughout the trail at various intervals as a way of knowing that you're on the right path. The blaze for Shvil Yisrael, as you can see from the slide, is 3 vertical stripes, white, blue, and orange. The white represents the white snow of the Chamon, the blue represents the Mediterranean, and the orange represents the desert sand. You'll see that the orange here is higher, like it's the highest is orange than blue than the white. That means that you're going in a southerly direction. Wait a sec. Here, the white is higher, so that means you're going north. Your head works. You know which direction you're hiking. Another fun fact, in 2012, the National Geographic magazine named the INT as one of the world's epic hikes for its ability to delve into the grand scale of biblical landscapes, as well as everyday lives. And it put Shvil Yisrael on the world map for hiker enthusiasts. From north to south, Shvil Yisrael meanders through mountains and valleys, fortresses, streams and hills, and ruins. It passes beaches and dunes, bypasses our largest cities, both ancient and modern, past forests and caves and verdant green meadows. It zigzags through many memorials, through areas where battles were fought, and it gives way to the desert of the Negev and then the Arava and the beauty of the mountains of Eilat. On the way, we saw an abundance of breathtaking overlooks. We smelled fragrant flowers and we saw lots of wildlife. It was literally and figuratively a breath of fresh air that sustained us until the next time we hiked. The best time to hike is in the winter and spring when temperatures are mild, but still you have to plan ahead, always working around the weather. You don't want to be out in the open on rainy and stormy days or strong rains or after strong rains, as the path will be very muddy. You'll see soon that we didn't always follow that rule and the results of it. We planned our hikes with the aid of a book called Hike the Land of Israel. No, it's not coming. Okay, I did have a picture of that, but no. Okay, Hike the Land of Israel, Israel National Trail by Jacob Sar, now in its 4th edition, which was our Bible. It offers a full description of each hike along with lots of tips and includes fascinating information about geology, history, unique botanical information, and interesting short side trips. I'll just mention a personal collective story that when we were hiking the segments around Mitzpeh Ramon, we ended up sharing a ride into the Shetach with a man who turned out to be none other than Yankel Sar, as he was known to his friends, the author of the book. We bulleted him with questions about the book, how he structured it, why he made certain decisions, and the Shvil for the 45-minute ride until our drop-off point. It was quite a special and memorable experience and counts as one of the highlights of our whole experience on the Shvil. Each segment is anywhere from 15 to 28 kilometers with an average of about 22. Including breaks, we figured that we hike 3.5 kilometers per hour. So we were on the trail each time from between 4 or 5 hours up until 8. And the longest and most difficult one was actually the day before we met Yankel Sar, who gave us some invaluable tips. That segment around Maktesh Hagadol took us 12 hours. In addition to Yankela's book, we use various apps. Naomi will go into more detail about that. There are many ways to do Shvil Yisrael, depending on your age and stage in life. Young people out of the army choose oftentimes to hike it consecutively, completing the 49 segments in about a month and a half. There are those who choose to join organized groups, some offering more tour guiding information, more, we hiked, but the groups, sometimes they focus on the history or the flora and fauna, and that frees you up. That frees you of the work of organizing the hike. We did it starting in the Merkaz, then doing the north and then the south, not in consecutive order. We planned and organized the hikes ourselves. Our core group consisted of approximately 10 people, but as you'll see in Debbie's slideshow, you'll recognize lots of people in the community and others who joined us for day hikes. In conclusion, the 4 years that we hiked Shvil Yisrael were very special ones. We would wake at the crack of dawn or before, so that we can make it to the trailhead in time to have a full day of hiking and be done by dark, which comes early in the winter. There was a serenity and special camaraderie when we were hiking out in nature with people from the community and others who joined, all sharing a love of Eretz Yisrael, being in nature, and ready for a beautiful day hiking our magnificent country, for this is what Hashem commanded us to do. Kum, Hithalech Ba'aretz. Debbie, I hand the mic over to you.
Okay. Excuse my technical problems. I'm going to do a screen sharing. Share screen. And sorry, does everybody see the first picture of a slideshow here?
No, maybe Karen has to stop screen sharing first because we want Karen's.
Does anyone see the first slide?
No.
Uh-oh. Karen, can you end your screen sharing? It did tell me that a lens was still open. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you fine. We just can't see your screen.
Okay, so Karen, are you there? So what do we do?
Vanished. Maybe someone phoned.
To screen share.
Call her.
Try again to screen share.
Yes. Try again.
Should I write her? I'm writing her.
No, she's not screen sharing anymore.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go. Starting.
Yep.
Okay.
Now you're on.
Okay, so let's do a full screen.
Yeah, from beginning.
Excellent.
Good.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Basically, a lot of people have asked how our group got started, and I'll just tell you quickly, and then we'll move on to the fun part. My love of hiking started 10 years ago when I participated for 5 years in a row in a fundraiser for the Kobe Mendel Foundation. We raised thousands of dollars, and they organized hiking for a few days in a row, several years in a row. But only during the time of Kobe's yahrzeit, which is in the spring. And that left me with the rest of the year wondering like how I'm gonna get out there and hike more. So then just out of the blue, the BEMs invited me to join them on a hike outside of Jerusalem one day. And while we were hiking, it was not intended that we were going to be following the Shvil Yisrael, but I happened to see our Shvil blaze here and there. And I said, wait a second, we're on the Shvil. So we're doing this on our own. Why can't we just do more of it on our own? And that's sort of how we got started, that I realized that we could continue and we could do it on our own, hopefully safely. And so I started to collect names and friends and people who were interested in hiking. And that's how we got started. So basically we, as Karen said, we left at the crack of dawn. We did all the planning on our own. We did things mostly one day at a time, but as we got farther away, it became 2 days at a time, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 down in the desert. And let's get started. She showed a very similar map. So we'll keep going. Okay, so I wouldn't say most of the hikes were this small of a group, but many were. We were committed to doing it consistently. And most of the other times, and I would say most on average, we had about 10 hikers with us every day. We felt like there was safety in numbers. We never had a guide or a chovesh. Sometimes we had some pets along, which some people brought, which was great. And we felt safe. Okay, so more group pictures. This was down when we got farther down into the desert. We passed a lot of, here's a couple of places where the Shvil marker is very clear to see. It wasn't always clearly marked, but we found our way, always with a little bit of maybe getting lost here and there, but nothing tragic, nothing, we never hiked past sunset, and we made sure of that. We encountered lots of magnificent sunrises, sunsets, rainbow, hold on, keep going, some more of the scenery, sunrise, sunsets, rainbows. Sorry if I'm going fast, we have a lot to get through. I think there's another rainbow there, just really beautiful scenery along the way. We encountered massive amounts of water, thank God, in the north, streams, lakes, puddles, some we had to cross by taking our shoes off, some which we could easily maneuver across. Here's one where we got stuck in a little bit of mud. No big deal. I'm not sure whose feet those were. We passed through beautiful forests, a lot of very majestic trees, landscapes. Probably didn't know that there was an Israel-China friendship forest in this country, but there is. Keep going. There's Har Tavor in front of us, headed that way. Then we hiked up and over it. Looks easy from this distance, but it wasn't. Then we also witnessed the damage done by the Carmel fires, which made for some nice pictures, but unfortunately, a lot of the terrain there was lost, and by now I'm sure it's regrowing. Beautiful flowers, insects, birds, animals, the best that Israel has to offer. If I'm going too fast, I'm sorry, but just some of the shots I took, I couldn't resist, including animals. Karen mentioned there were lots of them. We probably did not hike one day without seeing some form of animals, whether they were alive or dead. We had some of each, and we had more animals. Some very cool shots. It looks like we're very close, and we were. A lot of times they were actually on our trail, and we had to cross over them while they were enjoying right here. This group was on our trail, so we walked right through them, and they didn't seem to mind. We also passed by a lot of graffiti, most of which bothered us, but when we saw stuff like this, it was very cool. And if you want social distancing, hiking is the way to go. I'm not sure who that is. It might be Naomi. Okay, we passed, as Karen said, lots of archaeological sites, ruins, and enjoyed reading when there were signs. We didn't have a guide with us, but we did read all the signs and posted whatever we could. And we looked up in advance to see where we were going so we could learn about them. We found some mosaics that were out in the elements, unfortunately. Maybe someday they'll get covered and protected, but right now they were just out there like that. And then some humor, someone painted on concrete their home sweet home. Obviously that was not part of the original. We passed by lots of graves of famous Nevi'im. This one is Yeshayahu Hanavi, and the next one is Rebbe Yehuda Hanasi. Okay, we basically braved the weather, whatever it was, hot, cold, or rainy in this particular day, but we enjoyed whatever Hashem gave us on any given day. Beach walking was fun. Obviously, these guys were taking their break on furniture that was just randomly placed on the beach. And pretty much everywhere we went, we found bizarre things like cars in the middle of nowhere. We aren't quite sure how it got there. This was in the Yarcombe, coming out of the Yarcombe Park. We passed this dog walker with a lot of dogs. Very interesting thing that we passed many times were boxes in the middle of the Shvil that on the outside it said Sifriya. We opened it up. There were maps, books, different things to enjoy. Let's see. Then, okay, this was actually a surprise. We got into the desert just hiking the Carbolet, and we had no idea this was awaiting us. There was basically it's a flat plain of hardened sand, and it was filled with messages written in rocks. So different groups, army group units, B'nai Akiva groups, schools, yeshivas, whatever, that showed up here. They left their mark by leaving a trail, sometimes messages. This one says Shalom, Salem, peace. Sometimes they were hard to read because over time they got moved around, but we left our little symbol also. We left a Renana hiking group in the date, I think. So then, of course, lots of it is beautiful and wonderful to look at, but there was a lot of work involved. So here's just a little cute cartoon, because when we did look in advance, we thought everything was flat, of course, but we knew there were going to be some challenges. So here's down in the desert.
Debbie?
Yes, it's hard to see the steepness.
Asked in the chat, you're doing a great job. It was asked in the chat if we saw any snakes or scorpions along the way.
Ah, okay. So you want to answer that, Naomi?
No, you can answer it because I'm not afraid of anything.
A couple pictures of snakes. Thank God they were all dead. I think that was pretty much it. No scorpions, no.
We did.
Let me go through another. This was another challenging piece. It's hard to tell whether we're definitely coming. I think everyone was coming down at that time. But the pictures don't do it justice. The beauty that we saw, everything that we encountered, we tried to capture and then we shared at the end of the day. But pretty much the only way to see it is to be in it. This was a group that we passed in the north. They all had matching T-shirts, I guess, so they didn't get lost. I don't know. And it was just a cute little logo that they put on their T-shirts. But basically, in summary, I would just say for me, and I think I can speak for all of us, walking across the whole country in the footsteps of our ancestors and sages was the most amazing and inspirational way to connect to our people, our history, our homeland. It gave me an appreciation for the gorgeous land that we have at our fingertips. And I'm grateful to Hashem to have had this opportunity to explore the land that Hashem gave us. All right. Now I'm gonna stop sharing.
That is great.
So whoever wants to go next, I think.
Pam, you're on now.
Oh, it's me?
Lisa?
Oh, wait, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, everything was great, like everybody said before. Well, I'll just say for myself that when I started, if anyone told me that I was gonna, complete this whole adventure, I wouldn't have believed it. My first hike was across the parking lot from the Ayalon Mall and ended across the parking lot from Chetzi Chinam and went from there. Anyway, we were a hodgepodge of people. Some people knew each other, some people not. Some people knew each other just to say hello to, and at the end, everybody knew each other very well. There was lots of chatting and getting to know everyone, over the long days. It was sometimes very, very, very challenging. And I'm not a runner or a marathon runner, so I don't have that experience of pushing myself so much, but you were out there no matter how tired you were or how difficult it was. You really did have to push yourself sometimes because you needed to get to the end, because eventually you need to get back to the car if you wanted to go home. So I'll just tell you two of the many adventures we had, and one was I think it was someplace up near Meron. We were walking. I think we were a very small group that day. We were walking, and we sort of came out into the middle of a big flat field, and there was nothing except an older Druze couple who had set up a table and chairs, and they were making tea, and they had all kinds of food. And I said to whoever we were with, you know, that it's not, this is the Middle East, so we're gonna have to go over and say hello, and maybe we'll just get some tea. And we sat down, and they quickly boiled up a pot of tea for us. And it turned out that it was a husband and wife, that the husband spoke perfect English. He had worked for one of the shipping companies, and he had traveled all over the world. And he told us all about the Druze community. He told us about his family and his millions of relatives, and just all kinds of interesting things. And, you know, we had this really nice conversation with him in the middle of a field out in the middle of nowhere. And that's the kind of experience that, you know, you just don't have every day. And then the last thing that happened, I think maybe Naomi and Debbie and Karen were all of their last day of hiking. Then they completed the whole trail. We had hiked in the Ramon crater. We had like started at the top and clawed our way down and gone across and came out the other side, and it was late and it was getting dark, and it's really the middle of nowhere. And whoever was the driver that day had parked her car down the road and off the road, and she wasn't exactly sure where she had left it. It was starting to get dark, and we needed to find that car. And this is a little bit of a cautionary tale. And I started to panic because once it got dark, I mean, we were never going to find our way home. And I did the thing that I said I would never, ever do. I jumped into the middle of the road and just flagged down anyone who was driving. And these two really nice guys stopped, and we got in their car, and they drove us, and that car was parked quite a ways away. They drove us probably 5 kilometers down the road, and then off the road for another couple of kilometers, and all the way into the middle of nowhere. And finally, this woman found her car, thank God, before it got pitch black out, and everything was fine. We came back and picked up the rest of the hikers, and everything was fine. And so a person who said they would never hitchhike actually did have to hitchhike once in their life. Okay, I think that's it. I was just going to tell that one story. So who's that? Oh, Naomi, it's your turn.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's been great listening to you girls. It's bringing back so many memories. One more thing, since you mentioned the Druze couple that we had met up there, was about all the other wonderful people that we met on the trail. We met hikers from all over the world who are hiking individually or in pairs and groups. Europeans who you never in your wildest dreams would think would want to come to Israel and spend 6 weeks, but they were here. We met a lot of wonderful Israelis, and not only hikers, but Malachei HaShvil, that Shvil angels. There are all over the country, all along the trail. There are people who open up their homes, or if they have a balcony, a terrace, or they pitch a tent in their garden, and they provide lodging and showers, all of them to different mattresses, all of them to various degrees from north to south, but they're listed online, and they're listed in the Red Book about the Shvil, and they'll do anything to help the hikers that are hiking through. We never actually, I don't know, maybe somebody else in the group slept at a Shvil, at a Malach HaShvil's house. We never did. But they're really lovely. Also during the day, we once passed by, we were in Kfar Hasidim, and they set up a little coffee corner and a place to charge your phones. So they're really very special people who accommodated and accommodate the hikers from north to south. Now I'm going to take us, since everybody else basically covered, let's start screen sharing. Since everybody basically covered a lot of the things about the Shvil, I'm going to talk about hiking or even getting out to nature in general, with a couple of recommendations for nice things. So let's start. Okay. This is Nature for Your Well-Being. It really was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I think that if I had met the people that were hiking, first of all, the people that I were initiated into the Shvil with have already moved out of Ra'anana, unfortunately. But it was really at the right time and the right place, I think, for all of us, and it turned into a once-in-a-lifetime unique experience. So anyways, we discovered, I mean, this is something that I think we all know, that being in nature is a wonderful thing, and we don't even need to have scientific reports to tell us what it does to ourselves if we spend a little bit of time by a stream or in a field or something. It does make us feel better emotionally. And online, one second, online, this research actually went a step further than just understanding how I mean, the feelings are, but they studied it. So what they did was that they they made a small test. I didn't cover even 100 people, but they put them in 3 different places over a course of 3 weeks. They put them in a room that was shaded blue to look like nature, and they had them walk around in the room for 20 minutes. The next week, they walked 20 minutes in an urban environment out on the street. And then on the 3rd week, they just rested indoors. Their blood pressure and heart rate were measured after each 20-minute session that they were doing this, and they were also questioned about their well-being. The results are obvious. We all know that nature makes us feel better, but it really, really does affect lowers our heart rate, gives us, releases the hormones that combat stress, and so on and so forth. Anyways, I'm going to show you. If you want to, there's a link on that article that you can read the research yourself. So here are places to visit with minimal effort. I'm starting from the things that are closest by. I mean, if you ever want to hike on the Shvil, we'll be happy to talk to you for hours and give you all the information you need. But let's start with the simple things for those of us who have limitations. First of all, Park Ra'anana is lovely. The Har HaZevel, the garbage mountain in Ra'anana, I saw it online. I've actually never walked there. I know that there's biking around there, but it's also very accessible. It's nearby. There's a forest, this isn't listed, but that little forest that's on the end of Pardes Mishutaf and Arlozorov, even if you just go there and spend an hour sitting in the forest, looking at the trees, the fawn, well, the plants, it's easy to do. You don't need to spend a lot of time or invest energy into getting there, but you're there. If you go a little bit further, 15 minutes away to the Hoda Sharon Park, it's definitely handicap accessible. It's lovely to walk around their paths, crisscrossing it in all different ways, and it's very nice. The Herzliya Beach as well is very close by. It's like another world sometimes. You're so stuck in your urban life here or being locked down in your house, and you go to the beach and you realize it's amazing how close it is and how wonderful and different and how good it makes you feel to be there. In addition, the Herzliya Beach, by the way, does have handicap accessible. And since I'm talking about accessibility for people on wheels, whether it's strollers or wheelchairs or other sorts of handicaps, there are more and more national parks that are opening up in Israel with total handicap access, particularly in Israel because there are so many soldiers that were injured and so on and so forth. This should have been happening a while ago, but it seems to be more and more each year are opening up and making them handicap accessible, and it's all online. Further away, 30 to 45 minutes away from Ra'anana is the Agamon Hefer. It's really easy to get to. You just drive north about 20 minutes on Route 4, and then you follow Waze. Waze will take you onto a dirt road. You follow it. You wonder if you're going in the right place. It's just a dirt road, a little bit bumpy, but within 5 minutes on that road, you get to a beautiful pond where the birds during migration period are all feeding there, particularly in the mornings and the evenings. It's very nice. Strollers, wheels can go there. It's a 45-minute circular walk around the park. It's very relaxing, total quiet, total nature, and it really, gets into your system. Nahal Alexander is not far from there. It's also nice, but that's usually has a lot of people. The Yarkon Park is another huge, huge nature area, not very far away from here. So there are plenty of options of doing something within 5 minutes from your home or up to an hour from your home. Okay, moving on. Okay, if you want to do any more extended trips than what I was describing just now, here's a couple of websites that are incredible. So Susanna at Hiking in the Holy Land. One second, let's see if it goes up. I don't even know if it's worth going up. Suzanne, this is amazing. It's all in English. She posts information about all different kinds of hikes, from the simplest to the most complex. She has, I don't know if it shows it here on her website, but she gives you a whole link up on top with a Google map, a Waze link to the parking spot. She tells you the difficulty level, who it's safe for, whether it's circular or not, all the information you need. It's a really, really nice website. And her inspiration is so great. I'm telling you, she sends weekly emails. If you subscribe, it's really fun to just subscribe to her weekly emails, because when you read them, you feel so good, even just reading it at home. It makes you feel so special about being in the Holy Land, even if it's just your backyard or the park next door to you. Anyways, the next link is the runonahikers.com. This is an old website that we started, us original hikers. It's sort of been managed by Amir Bem. There's a lot of information in here about different hikes that he has hiked or we've hiked. He's added a lot of bike hikes as well. A lot of information to how to prepare. It has a packing list if you ever want to go hiking. I don't know if it's that active anymore, but it really does have a lot of information packed into it if you want to get to it. The last site that I'm going to show you is actually in Hebrew. I don't know if they have English translation, but it's also one of these websites that you just put in the part of the country you want to go to, the level of difficulty that you want to go to, and they give you all the information you need. And it also has a lot of feedback from people who have gone to these places. And they tell give a lot of interesting information about it. Anyways, here's some apps if you're really interested in getting into it. Phone apps, Wikiloc, which Debbie used constantly along the hike. It maps your hike, it shows you where you are, and if you veer off, you can get back on. Amur Anan is the same thing. It's a very, very good app with intricate hiking maps all over the country, and you just zoom into where you want to hike and it'll show you and it'll follow you as well. The Google Maps, they were here, the Google people were here a couple of years ago with their funny cars driving all over with their 360-degree cameras, and they walk the whole Israel National Trail and they put it onto their map so that you can also find anything you need if you go into the finer detail of the Google Maps. That's basically the information, the most general information. We did, when WhatsApp started, Debbie had mentioned how we started out our first hikes, and that was before we even had WhatsApp. That's how quickly technology has developed. So initially it was just emails to the whole group that kept getting bigger and bigger. And then when WhatsApp started, a general hiking list in Run-On, it's all mostly Run-On people. There are a couple, I don't know how many people are on now, but at a point there were way over 100 people. Somebody suggests a hike. Well, before Corona time, when you can actually go places together with friends, somebody would suggest a hike and people would say whether they wanted to go on it or not, and then they would start planning together. It held a lot of information and a lot of connections in that WhatsApp group. That's basically it. Here I'll end by showing you, not the best pictures, and I don't have Pam in here either. I apologize, Pam. But since we hiked over the course of so many years, not so many years, 4 years, 3.5, inevitably some of us traveled or were unwell and missed some hikes and we had to make up. So we all ended at different times. That hike that Pam was just describing a few minutes ago about when she hitchhiked is where Debbie and Karen in the orange and green shirts on the right side finished. They had completed their trail. The middle picture, which is a bit blacked out, that's Chaim Wagoda and Amir and Nicole Bem, who had finished their trail at Mitzpeh Ramon, that's right at the top. And then over there on the side is me. I finished a little bit after everybody else. And that is somewhere in the Sin Desert, right by Sde Boker, which I actually was there yesterday. But we went on a Jeep trip with our grandchildren, but that's where I finally completed my entire trail. So that's basically it. And 1 second, I'm stopping my broadcast. And I don't know if we covered everything. Anybody who has questions, I think, or if anybody has something else to add, we'd be happy to hear.
Do you all want to unmute yourselves, maybe?
I have a question. Anything you regret or something you should have brought on the way that you didn't bring?
I'll tell you the only thing that I, like, this is a small thing. We walked a lot, and we walked maybe a little bit fast. I feel like there were some times that maybe we should have slowed down a little bit and just looked around and not been so quick to just keep moving past some things, maybe have stopped and you know, explored a little bit more instead of being, you know, in a hurry. You know, the day was going and we didn't want it to get dark and we needed to finish the whole thing. We might have gone just a drop slower.
Well, I think also I'll just add that the hiking sticks are critical. A lot of people at the beginning made fun of them, those of us who had them, and said, oh, I don't need them. And some people went out and bought one stick and then realized that one stick doesn't really help. You need two. So that's critical, I would say, for sure. Each person should have 2 sticks.
Thank you, Anna.
Weren't you ever afraid to be like you're hiking in the middle of nowhere, like literally in the desert? Yeah. Weren't you afraid that you're just like in the middle of nowhere?
You should answer that.
You know,
maybe you're in a group.
A calm one.
You didn't scare anybody.
There was talk about whether we should rent a satellite phone and split the cost between ourselves for areas where our phones just did not work. There were a couple of times, but we never did in the end. There was also times where some of us lost each other, sometimes for more than an hour, and that was a bit worrisome. But all in all, we didn't do the desert, which is the difficult part, which is really far away from civilization, until we had been hiking for a good 2.5 years. By then we had just gained a lot of experience, and we made our judgments. And we also learned of, you know, all the people who help you in the desert, because there's places where they hide or they place the people who own Jeeps down in, like, from Mitzpe Ramon onwards. People buy water in advance so that the hikers who are going don't have to carry water for 3 days, which is absolutely impossible. They plant their bottles of water in various places. So there's all kinds of interesting people who assisted us, who we met along the way, that made us feel safe.
I think it's
Kol hakavod to all of you, really.
Yeah, really, really fantastic, beautiful presentation, and I'm so glad that everyone is here and everyone's joining in, and it's wonderful to see everybody.
Were there any like particular parts or, you know, hours or days, whatever it is, that you felt were actually unsafe, that you could have maybe fallen off and died or something like that?
No.
Good.
Aaron, you're muted. If you're talking, unmute.
Oh, okay. Debbie, yes, I think there were a few difficult, should I mention this? I guess yeah, that's the question. There were a few difficult parts. One of them that I remember vividly was it was on the hardest hike, which was, I mentioned it, where we met the author of the book that we used. It's called the Carbolet, and I think this kind of one of the sides of the Martesh Hagadol, and the continuation, which we really didn't hear too much. That was not even so bad. I was thinking it was going to be much worse, but the continuation is a place called Nachal Ofran, and that was dangerous. And there were other parts in the south that were also dangerous. That if you fell, it was dangerous. It was really dangerous.
That's why you need, but that's why you needed good shoes. You have to focus. We always had to focus. As soon as we got a couple of times, as soon as we got carried away in conversation, we had just continued walking, and we were off the Shvil, and we had to trace back. But hiking poles and proper gear and being cautious is about 2/3 of it. 1/3 of it is Hashgachat Hashem.
I'll also add that we did at some point, at least Debbie and I don't know about you, I don't think you did, Naomi, but we bought pepper spray. We never used it, but we did. Sometimes we took it out, just had it in our hand.
You also had your mini baseball bat.
Okay. Guys, now you're putting everybody off. Stop. So I'm going to sum up. First of all, I think you may have to come back again, ladies, because there seem to be so many questions and there's so much enthusiasm. I think personally, I'm going to really start to hike around Park Ranana. So there with a satellite phone, a chovesh, and a pair of hiking poles, you'll know I've been inspired by you. I think I can speak for all of us in saying this has been a really wonderful Zoom cafe. And I really hope to see you guys all next week. And keep on hiking, even though I think next week we're not going to be hiking more than 1,000 meters from our front door. But I guess if we hike around the block and look at a bottle of water, that would be a hike with water. And thank you all so much for joining us, and welcome to anyone who's new. Let's just see, Debbie Rosenberg, good to see you again. Glad, I hope you're out of Bidud now, and see you all next week, and keep on with the good work, ladies.
You too, Emma.
Great job.
Emma, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Well done.